Hey, all, Brad here with another video, post-repair video. Customer of mine, Anthony, sent in a Sinistar board set and uh, the linear power supply. Someone had gone through and recapped it and done a few things to it. Um, I wanted to just double check it, make sure everything looked good. Found a couple things I reworked, nothing major on the power supply. So I'll switch over to the bench cam here. We'll go over what I did on the boards, and then we'll do a little gameplay, go through the diagnostics, and hopefully wrap this up pretty quick. So let me switch over to the bench cam. There we go. Guess I'll do the power supply first. So here's the linear power supply. Someone put a cap kit on. I don't recognize these red ones. I've seen them before, not sure. Um, Here for the large 18,000 microfarad, they used a radio cap and then routed some wiring. Um, it does work. It's not as clean as the axle leaded ones that Peter over at Arcade Parts and Repair provides, but it definitely works. I did beef up and put a bigger tie wrap on here. This large 12 volt filter cap was kind of up off the board. I spread the leads and did that. I did put a 10 turn 10K potentiometer here so you can really dial in the 5. I went through and cleaned up all of the round pin Molex with the wire brush. They had a little oxidation on them. And I did go over on the bottom side of the board and touch up some of the solder joints and things like that. A lot of people, maybe their iron isn't quite hot enough. They don't get enough flow on the bigger joints. So I did that. And then back on the heat sink here, I did go through and put a new Molex connector with the Trifurcon pins. And we also use a polarizing key there. You can see on pin 3. Which is actually pin 5 in this case because one is on the left. And I also put new sill pads under both of the power transistors here. Um, Took those off, cleaned the legs on them, and then put new sill pads in. So that's the power supply. Nothing major reworked there. I did have a fuse that was wrong here. I pulled all the fuses and tightened them up as well, the little friction grips on them. And they had a 3 amp where 5 amps supposed to be, so I swapped that out. Back here on the soundboard, again, some new caps were put on this already. I went through and swapped out one here, 10 microfarad with a tantalum, put a new bridge rectifier on, tightened up all the heat sinks, made sure there was plenty of heat sink compound, reworked the fuse holders, put in all 4 Molex headers with the square pins. Over here on the speech, put a brand new ribbon cable. The old one was original. Did swap out a 10 microfarad here for a tantalum, the yellow guy. Pulled all of the socketed chips, as well as on here I pulled the MPU and the ROM, straightened, cleaned the legs, put some deoxit on them, got that all set up. Here's the bag of old parts that I returned. We've got ribbon cables and Molex headers and caps and all kinds of stuff, Zener diodes in there that I change out. So all the old parts will go back to the customer. Down here on the MPU, I did install. The customer sent me a bag. He bought some, planned on doing it himself, and then there was a few other things, so he just sent them to me. Some CR2450 battery holders, so I appreciate that. But I did put that battery holder and battery on the board, so now we have nice lithium, and these things have about 3 times the capacity as the CR2032. And then what else did we do here? So coming back here, I did put the ZR1, the Zener diode. The original was 3.6, and I put a 4.7 in. Um, and then we put a new tantalum cap here for the soft start, 22 microfarad. There was some new caps here for the filter caps. They were red, and I didn't know what they were, so I just swapped them out with the Nichicons that I use here. We did put new Molex headers in all 3 positions on the board. I pulled both decoders and the CPU, straightened, cleaned the legs, put a little deoxit on them. Also back here on the RAM, this has some really nice Toshiba ceramic 416 DRAM, and there was one oddball in here. And after I showed the customer, he said, "Hey, I had a problem with that location," and put in a different one. I still had the original, so I pulled the RAM back out. I went through and pulled the cover off the socket and straightened and cleaned the legs and added some tension to them. So that position 2.7 now is real solid. And I did go through and shine and polish the whole board up, and it's very clean. And then on the ROM board here, new ribbon cable, 2 new filter caps, all new Molex headers with the square pins. There was a couple missing ROM labels on ROM 8 and 11 here, and these are my reproductions. They're pretty good. You can barely even tell, if you can, that they're reproductions. I pulled all the EPROMs and both of the special chips here, the blitters, straightened, cleaned the legs, and put some deoxit on them. And then on the I/O board here, we have a new 15-pin Molex header with the square pins. We've got a new ribbon on it. We've got a new filter cap. Gone through, cleaned up, and straightened around. So that's kind of an overview on the boards here. No smoking gun. The boards were running actually. It wasn't didn't send them in because he had an issue necessarily with that. He was trying to get the battery straightened and just kind of wanted to make sure everything was solid. So let me switch back over to the board with me on the camera. So I do have a little remote control on the bench here. I'll start it. This is a little different being Sinistar vertical, so my little capture here, I had to rotate it 90, so it's not going to fill the screen like it does nicely with the horizontal games. So there's the carpenter rug pattern running. I also have my little PlayStation controller here that I've configured for Sinistar, which is a little tricky because I'm actually programmed to simulate the 49-way optical joysticks into the board. So that took a little effort when I originally set that up a few years ago. So you can see she boots right into attract mode, no problem. Everything looks good. Let me drop into diagnostics here. All ROMs okay. Now it jumps right into a RAM test. No RAM errors. It's going to test the CMOS, which is the 5514. That CMOS RAM draws very little standby current. It needs about 2 volts only, maybe even a little less, microamps of power to keep the settings and high scores and memory on it. We'll loop through some of the sound tests here. I think there's there. So counts up to 5 and then loops back, and that's able to test all the digital I/O that come off the ROM board that drive the soundboard. So basically, you're able to test every bit going out on a physical pin with that sound test. So here's kind of the switch test. What you're seeing here is the 3 ups and 3 left and rights and up and downs, and then there's also a direction bit that'll get triggered when we go up. You'll see. So let me move the joystick here up. You'll see it says up, down, direction 1, and then when I release it, it goes the other way. So that's how the board, and I'll do left and right. So basically, the way the 49-way works is there's 3 levels. I like to call them like slow, medium, and fast for each axis, X and Y, and it uses 8 bits basically to be able to determine that. So it's pretty slick joystick, and I can hit a couple of the other ones. So here's fire. We have this bomb, Cinnabomb, player 1 start, coin, auto up. But I basically go through and test all of the inputs when I do these boards. So this is a drop into a color RAM test where it's checking the different intensities. You get 3 intensities on red, and then it'll jump to green and do 3 intensities. And then blue, 3 intensities, and then back. So we'll jump over here now. We have the grid lines up where you would set your convergence when you do your monitor. Again, I mentioned before, most people nowadays, they're using a test pattern generator or something like that to do all their monitor settings. Then you have solid red, green, blue at the highest brightness from the color RAM test you saw. And then we'll get color bars here, and then this screen is where you have all the bookkeeping data. So again, somebody that would be coming in to the arcade with that lower vault lockbox where all the money's at, they would open that up. There's a little button that they can put their finger through and pull this bookkeeping data up on the screen, and they can see where the coins, which slots the coins were coming in on, and how many total were in there, how many free games were given out, by the arcade, by the operators that are in the thing, and make sure that the money in the box matches with the number of coins that comes in, right? So that's kind of their bookkeeping tally here. And then the next screen we have is where you go through and set all your game adjustments. Sinistar is interesting. When it first boots, it loads a CMOS with a kind of a default set of settings. But if you don't come down here and do, clear bookkeeping totals and then high score table reset, I do all 3. I do the factory settings, and then the CMOS and all your high scores and everything are perfect if you do that. So, and then it'll drop right back here to attract mode. So I will coin it up. I hunger. I hunger. We'll start a game here. let's go mine a little bit here. Don't, no, you don't. Trying to get those little minerals. Ooh, got one. So you can see the game's playing fine. I'm going to go ahead and finish up here. This did run on the bench for its 24 hours. And let me switch back here. It did run on the bench for 24 hours. Also, when I did the power supply, I have a load tester that I've showed in some other videos. So I did run it at 3 amps on the 5 volts and 1 amp on the 12 volts for about 8 hours just to make sure everything got really good and hot and everything was working solid. The voltages didn't drift. So I'm highly confident in the linear power supply and the board set now. The customer should have many hours of reliable play, hopefully error free. So thanks for watching the video, and keep an eye out for the next one.